Hello, everybody. My name is Antonio Nunes, and I'm from Brazil. Thanks to the opportunity of staying here and dialoguing with other experiences. Today, I will present for you my doctorate project with title Life and Death and Experience of Social Educators who act in the scope of public safety policy of homicides control in the favelas in Brazil. The project in development, which aims to investigate the ethical experience of the social educators who work in a public policy of criminal prevention with young people involved with crime and drugs in some favelas in Brazil, in especially in my state, state of Minas Gerais. Okay. This research is being developed in the Department of Education and Social Inclusion of Universidade Federal de Minas Gerais, Federal University of Minas Gerais. This lecture will be structured in 4 parts. First, I will make a briefing about the Brazilian context. Then I will present my research problem, presenting my object, and make some hypotheses. In the last topic, I will present the methodological issues and conclusions. So, to introduce the context of violence against young people and the challenge of working to social education, I intend to make a briefing about some historical points like slavery, poverty, and the profile of the murdered people. Although Brazil is one of the biggest food producers around the world, it was just in 2014 that the country left the hungry map. Today in COVID-19 context and political context of Brazil, the country suffered a setback and registered more than 90 million of hungry people. Another question. Brazil was the last country around the world to finish the slavery. This phenomenon had produced big effects on the poor and on how these people occupy the space. It was at this moment that the favelas construction started. The favelas are a kind of possible house for poor people, constructed through precarious sanitary conditions and located in isolated areas in the largest country cities. Another question. Brazil registered every year more than 50,000 violent deaths, in special homicides. These people have a social class and breed. They are mostly black young boys around 15 to 29 years old and peripheral residents. Although the demographic tendencies show that the age of Brazilian population will change the context in the next few years, but today the death of young people between 15 to 29 years old represents 53.3% of homicides. All right. The last question is the carcerary context. This is a photography of a scene of the Carandiru movie. Brazil is the third country in prisons around the world. It stays only behind the USA and China. The profile of murdered people is similar as those people who are prisoners, and 34.7% did not receive judgment, according to the Institute for Crime and Justice Research. Brazil, like other countries, has a war against drugs, but with focalization in small consumers and small trafficking people. These practices have demonstrated small effects to use in trafficking, but produce more carceral mass and amplify the social problems. So, in this briefing context, I would like to show how the social pedagogy and social education have a big challenge to build a new society, more equal and secure for all in my country, in our country. Let's now to my object result. In particular, my proposal takes as an empirical object the social educators that work in the homicide control program, Stay Alive, the Fica Vivo, developed by the state government of Minas Gerais since 2002. This program was based on other experiences around the world, in particular the Boston Guns Project, developing in the city of Boston. In our experience, after the tax project in 2003, the program was key effective, producing 40% reductions of the homicide rate in the territories. This is an example of a social educator who stay in your home. Okay, about the methodological issues, this study used the History of Life method with participant observation methodology. And I will make interviews with the social educators that work in this program. To analyze the empirical data, I will use the bibliographic productions. In special, I will use two notions of philosopher Michel Foucault. The first notion is a Greek term, parrhesia. In translation is like a courage of truth. And another term, self-care presented. Self-care present in the work of the Michel Foucault. And taking praxis as a possible ethical experience in the actions of the social educators. All right. The success of this program is the component that I want to research about. It's a particular kind of social educator that stays near young people, and her pedagogical practice can build new types of experience for these young people. In general, the mechanism to come near is with cultural, sportive, and labor practices. But the most interesting is how these educators approach young guys involved in violence and drug trafficking. So, my first questions were how this practice can be effective to prevent violence crimes, in particular the homicides. And another question is, what is the ethical experience possible to be built by the social educators in this pedagogical relationship? So why is it my interest to serve as educators? First of all, in general, these educators are people who were born in the territory where they work. Second, many of them had a criminal background, were carried by the program, and may have changed their lives. Third, they seem to be committed with young more than in an educational content, but in a type of connection that needs strong bond and trust. Regardless, it seems that in order to prevent death or make life, these educators have a specific knowledge to dialogue with the cultural context and impact on the life history of these young people. So in my initial hypothesis, these educators do a double movement that consists in taking care of themselves and encouraging the truth. Both terms are used by Michel Foucault in his so-called third phase, ethical phase. In my hypothesis, to conduct their educational practices with young people involved with crime, the social educators need to have an ethical life in order to be an example, and courage to say the truth and save some lives while exposing their all to risk. This is my result. Thank you the opportunity to stay here. I would to talk more with you. If you have a doubt and a question, please, or critics, please send to me and help me to build a better result. Thank you. Bye.